Welcome back to the deep end. If you are tuning in right now, you are probably someone who looks at the world and thinks, well, there has to be more to the mechanics of this place than just gravity and taxes and maybe the occasional coincidental run-in with an ex.
Gravity, taxes, and traffic jams. The ultimate trifecta of modern existence.
Exactly. But today we are going to get weird. And I don't mean just sort of fun fact weird. I mean the kind of weird that might make you pull your car over to the side of the road because you just need a minute to process it. We are exploring the actual architecture of reality itself.
It is a massive claim to make. But the document we are looking at today suggests that we aren't just navigating reality, like a rat in a physical maze. It says that we are actually broadcasting it.
Right.
It's the difference between walking through a movie set and realizing you are the one running the projector.
So to guide us down this rabbit hole, we are doing a deep dive into a very specific and historical document. We are looking at session 334 of the early sessions, book 8 of the Seth Material.
Which is really a true classic in the field of metaphysics. This specific session was recorded on April 12, 1967. And for those who might be new to this or who just kind of stumbled upon this deep dive, the Seth Material involves Jane Rogerts. She was a writer and poet living in Elmira, New York, who would enter a trance state and basically speak for an energy personality essence that called itself Seth.
Now, before the skeptics out there tune out, I really want to flag something up front. We aren't just going to hit you with abstract philosophy today. We're going to get into the actual nuts and bolts of how this supposedly works.
Yeah, the mechanics of it.
Right, the mechanics. And the second half of this deep dive focuses on a series of objective tests conducted in this very session. We are talking about clairvoyance and remote viewing.
Specifically, we are going to look at what we like to call the case of the cracked toilet.
Which honestly sounds like a terrible Nancy Drew novel or a rejected Hardy Boys mystery.
Yeah.
But it is actually one of the most bizarrely specific pieces of evidence in the history of parapsychology.
It really is. It's mundane, it's funny, and it's incredibly validating when you look at the data.
Before we jump in, though, we need to handle the housekeeping because context always matters. Just so everyone knows, this podcast will be distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We're able to discuss this material thanks to the New Awareness Network who published these sessions.
And a huge shout out to them for keeping this archive available for serious study. It's invaluable.
Okay, let's start with the hook. I want to ask you and the listener right now a question. Have you ever had one of those days where the world just feels outright hostile?
Oh, yeah.
You wake up, you stub your toe, the coffee machine breaks, you hit literally every single red light on the way to work. You get a completely rude email from a coworker.
The classic bad day. It's that domino effect. It feels like the universe just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and decided to target you specifically.
And we usually look at that chain of events and we say, wow, I have such bad luck today. We view the physical world as the aggressor and ourselves as the victim.
Right. The arrow of causality is usually viewed as the world happens and then I react to it.
But the core thesis of session 334 flips that arrow 180 degrees. Seth argues that you react inwardly first, and then the world happens to match that reaction.
It suggests that the bad luck wasn't random at all. It was a broadcast signal you sent out, perhaps even before you got out of bed that morning.
So let's get into the mechanics of this in segment 1, which we will call the inner painter. Because Seth opens this session with an analogy that seems pretty simple at first, but is actually incredibly complex when you apply it to the physics of consciousness. He talks about painting a picture.
He says, and I'm quoting here, if you paint a picture, its overall quality comes from the inner atmosphere of your being. In the same manner, you create your physical image and your world.
Inner atmosphere. I kind of want to pause on that term for a second. It's very poetic, but he doesn't just mean thoughts, does he?
No, and that is a crucial distinction to make. A lot of people hear concepts like the law of attraction, and they think it means sitting there just thinking, I want a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari over and over again.
Right, like a chant.
Yeah, but that is just surface-level intellect. That's just the ego talking. Inner atmosphere refers to your deep-seated emotional climate. It is the background radiation of your psyche.
So if I am painting a picture, let's use Van Gogh as an example. If I look at Starry Night, I don't say, wow, those stars forced Van Gogh to paint them that way. I don't look at the canvas and assume the canvas attacked him with blue paint.
Exactly. The painting is an expression of his internal state, the chaos, the beauty, the turbulence that all came from him went onto the canvas. We accept that for art. We totally accept that the artist is the origin point.
But we really struggle to accept it for something like a traffic jam.
Right. We think the traffic jam is just a prop on the stage that we just happen to bump into. But Seth is arguing that your life is literally a 3D immersive artwork. You are the artist, but you have somehow forgotten you are holding the brush.
That is so wild.
You are walking through the gallery of your life, complaining about the paintings, and completely forgetting you signed every single one of them.
This leads directly into the mechanism he calls projection. And he uses a very specific word that I found a bit challenging, honestly. He calls it automatic.
Yes, he says, for this projection of inner into outer is automatic. The physical self seems to react to physical stimuli. Actually, of course, it is reacting to its own reality projected outward.
See, that word automatic is slightly scary to me. It implies I am doing it without my consent. It implies a total lack of conscious control.
Well, think about your heartbeat. You aren't consciously telling your heart to beat right now. You aren't sitting there commanding your stomach to secrete enzymes to digest your lunch. It is automatic, but it is still you doing it. It's your biological system.
Okay, I hear that.
Seth is saying that creating reality or projecting this inner atmosphere into physical events is a biological and spiritual function, just like breathing. You don't have to try to do it. You are doing it right now effortlessly.
So we are just constantly broadcasting.
24/7. You are a projector. The projector doesn't decide whether to show a rom-com or a horror movie. It just shines light through whatever film is loaded. Your inner atmosphere is the film reel.
This creates a really funny and slightly terrifying image. We are all walking around inside our own personal movies, screaming at the actors for reading the lines that we actually wrote.
We are the directors with amnesia. We sit in the chair and scream, "Who wrote this garbage script? This dialogue is terrible. Why is the protagonist suffering so much?" Knowing full well deep down it was us the whole time.
Okay, but I can hear the listener pushing back right now. I can hear myself pushing back, honestly. I didn't write a script where I get a flat tire. I didn't write a script where I get fired from my job. I certainly didn't write a script where my partner breaks up with me.
And that is completely fair. That is the rational mind protecting itself. Seth isn't saying you consciously sat down with a pen and planned a flat tire. He is saying your inner atmosphere, maybe a feeling of lack or intense frustration or feeling stuck, projected a physical symbol that perfectly matched that feeling.
A flat tire is a pretty on-the-nose symbol for feeling stuck.
It is, because the physical world is symbolic. It operates on symbolic logic, not linear logic.
Let's move to segment 2, the letter experiment. Because Seth breaks this down with a practical example that everyone, and I mean everyone, can relate to. Getting the mail.
This is where the rubber meets the road, or I guess where the paper meets the mailbox.
Seth outlines 2 very distinct scenarios regarding receiving a letter. Let's look at scenario A first, the good news scenario.
Okay, so imagine you walk to the mailbox, you find a letter. Maybe it is a check you weren't expecting, or an acceptance letter to a university, or love note. You open it and you feel this massive surge of high spirits.
Now, the conventional view is simple. The letter caused the happiness, cause and effect. The physical paper object made me feel happy.
Right. But Seth says, if, for example, a letter comes to you bearing good news and you react to the letter with high spirits, then you should understand that the high spirits existed first.
They existed first. That is the absolute key to this whole philosophy.
He literally says those inner high spirits created the materialization of the letter.
So I was already vibrating at the frequency of good news, and the universe just coalesced a physical object out of nowhere to justify that feeling.
The letter is just the validation. It is the prompt the universe handed you to explain to your rational mind why you felt so good. Your inner self knew the joy was already there, and the physical world just rearranged itself to match the emotional tone.
That is the pleasant version. We really like that version. Oh, I manifested a check today. But then he completely drops the hammer with scenario B, the nasty letter.
The hate mail, the unexpected tax bill, the homeowner association violation notification.
In this scenario, you open it and you get instantly angry. You feel victimized. You think, why is this person being such a jerk to me today? I was having a perfectly fine Tuesday until this guy ruined it.
But Seth says if an annoying letter arrives, the negative quality preceded the letter and caused it to materialize. And then he adds the part that really gives me chills. This is the part that makes you want to look over your shoulder.
Oh, what is the exact quote?
He says, you broadcast the negative feelings, which were then picked up by whomever was ready to receive them for their own purposes.
Picked up by whomever was ready to receive them? Let's really unpack that. That implies a network.
It implies a massive subconscious web of communication. Imagine you wake up in a foul mood. You are basically broadcasting a signal of irritation. That signal goes out into the world like a radio wave. It doesn't even have a specific target yet. It is just ambient noise.
Okay, so my irritation signal is out there. I am polluting the psychic atmosphere.
Now, somewhere across town, there is someone else. Maybe a creditor, maybe an ex-partner, maybe just a really grumpy neighbor who is in a mood where they actively want to lash out. They are scanning the emotional frequencies for a target they just need someone to be angry at.
And my signal matches their need.
Bingo. They subconsciously pick up your irritation signal. It resonates perfectly with them. It is a lock and key fit. They suddenly feel a compulsion to sit down and write you that nasty email. They might consciously think it is their own brilliant idea, but they are actually just responding to your broadcast.
So I didn't force them to write it. Free will definitely still exists in this model.
Right, you didn't control them like a puppet on a string, but you put out the welcome mat. You opened the door for that specific interaction to occur. You signaled, I am ready to be annoyed, and they signaled, I am ready to be annoying, and the universe basically said, I now pronounce you annoyer and annoyed.
That is deeply humbling. It is basically saying that if I am walking around with an invisible kick me sign on my back, invisible to me but glaringly visible to everyone else's subconscious, I really cannot be surprised when someone eventually kicks me.
It completely removed the luxury of blame. That is the hard pill to swallow here. If you get a nasty letter, the question isn't what is wrong with him. The question is, what signal was I sending that invited this into my reality?
It reminds me of that old saying, if you run into a jerk in the morning, you just ran into a jerk. But if you run into jerks all day long, you are the jerk.
Seth is providing the exact metaphysical mechanics for why that saying is literally true. You are the common denominator in your reality every single time.
So this brings us naturally to segment 3. If we are constantly broadcasting, what determines the strength of the signal? Is it just thinking I am happy over and over? Because I have tried that, and honestly, usually I just end up annoyed that I am not actually happy.
No, because if you are thinking I am happy, but you are feeling absolutely miserable, the universe listens to the misery. It ignores the words. Seth talks about intensity.
He calls it the dominating factor.
The intensity of the inner feeling is the dominating factor here. Thoughts are just the blueprint, but emotion is the actual electricity that powers the construction. You can have a beautiful blueprint for a mansion, but if you have no electricity, you cannot build the thing.
He gives a pretty stark warning about negative intensity, too.
He does. He says a sudden but intense feeling of hatred or resentment or fear may cause tragic physical circumstances. That quick flash of pure road rage, that can manifest an accident or a health crisis almost instantly. It is like a massive power surge that just blows a fuse in your reality.
But he also offers the flip side, which I found really hopeful, because sometimes we feel like we have to be toxically positive all the time for the stuff to work.
Yes, he says a sudden and intense exaltation or pure joy, even of brief duration, can literally change the direction of a life.
Even of brief duration. That is the key right there. It doesn't have to be a month-long meditation retreat.
It just has to be real. One single moment of absolute unadulterated joy cuts through the static of 1,000 mediocre days. It acts as a reset button. It sends such a remarkably strong signal that it just overwrites all the weaker negative signals you've been putting out.
Speaking of resetting, Seth connects this directly to health. I know this is a sensitive topic for many people, but his take on chronic conditions is fascinating and really challenges the standard medical narrative.
He warns strongly against what he calls the trap of permanency. We all have this terrible habit of identifying with our ailments. We say things like, I have a bad back, I have a migraine sufferer, I have terrible allergies.
We make it a noun. We make it part of our identity. It is basically printed on our driver's license at that point.
Seth advises Jane Roberts specifically on this. He says Rupert should not think, for example, I have had these symptoms for such and such a time. This reinforces the idea of permanency. By saying I have had this pain for 10 years, you are actively projecting that continuity into your future. You are telling your cellular structure, this is who we are. Guys, keep doing the bad thing.
So what is the alternative then? Is it delusion? Just pretending it doesn't hurt when it obviously does?
No, it is about a radical shift in perspective. He introduces this beautiful concept of the psychic rebirth.
I love this phrase so much, psychic rebirth.
He says each day should be considered a new day. The day should be considered as a psychic rebirth.
And biologically speaking, this is actually entirely true. We know from modern science that our cells are constantly dying and being replaced. The physical body I am sitting in today is literally not the same material body I had a year ago.
Exactly. The stomach lining replaces itself every few days. The skin replaces itself every couple of weeks. Your entire skeleton is remodeled over a decade. The only thing keeping a chronic condition locked in place in this view is the chronic expectation of it.
Right, the signal.
Yes. If you treat today as a psychic rebirth, a totally blank slate, you interrupt that signal. You stop projecting the history of yesterday into the reality of tomorrow.
It is incredibly empowering. It means you aren't trapped by your history at all. Just because you felt awful yesterday does not mean you're obligated to feel awful today.
But moving on, I know exactly what the skeptics are thinking right now. They are saying this is beautiful philosophy, it is great, empowering psychological advice. But is it real? Or is it just a highly creative writer named Jane Roberts coming up with really cool metaphors to make us feel better about our bad luck?
And that is the absolute perfect transition to segment 4, the proof. Because session 334 isn't just a philosophical lecture, it is a real-time laboratory demonstration.
This is where things get straight into X-Files territory. This is where we leave the cozy realm of theory and enter the hard realm of data. Seth didn't just speak philosophy to them. He performed actual tests of clairvoyance or remote viewing to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he could see things that Jane Roberts, the human woman sitting in Elmira, could not possibly know.
We have 2 incredible case studies right in this session. Let's look at the first one, Pat Norelli's classroom.
Okay, so set the scene. It is 1967. There is no internet. There are no smartphones. There is absolutely no GPS tracking. A woman named Pat Norelli takes a reel-to-reel audio tape of a previous Seth session. She drives to Boston, which is hundreds of miles away from Jane Roberts in Elmira, New York. And she plays this tape for her high school honors class.
Okay, so Jane is sitting in her apartment in New York. The tape is currently playing in a classroom in Boston.
Yes, like. And in this session 334, Seth, speaking through Jane, starts describing what happened in that classroom in Boston. He essentially remote views the entire event. He looks back in time and across physical space.
What exactly does he see?
He starts pointing out very specific students who reacted to the audio tape. He says there is a boy in a third seat in a near center row.
And was there actually a boy there?
Confirmed. Pat Norelli sent a detailed diagram of the classroom later. A student named Dave Lounsberg was sitting in that exact seat and was noted to be very highly engaged with the material.
Okay, that is one hit. A skeptic could say it is a lucky guess. Boys sit in center rows sometimes.
Then Seth says, I see a girl in a fourth seat in one of the rows far right.
And the result?
Confirmed. A student named Elaine Todd, sitting in the fourth seat in the far right row.
Now that is getting statistically highly unlikely to just be a random guess.
Then he gets auditory with his remote viewing. He says, I sensed someone with a name like Davis, or with Davis in it.
And the boy in the center row was named?
Dave Lounsberg. Now, Davis and Dave L are phonetically incredibly similar. If you are picking up a fuzzy psychic impression hearing, Dave is, instead of Dave L, is a direct hit. It is how psychic data translates.
Just imagine being Dave Lounsberg for a second. You are sitting in your high school honors class listening to a weird, spooky tape. And the voice on the tape, which was recorded weeks ago, or the entity behind the voice, knows exactly where you're sitting in the future.
It completely bends our conventional concept of time and space. But honestly, the classroom test is just the appetizer for this session. The main course is the Gallagher's trip to New York City.
Ah, yes, the case of the cracked toilet. This is my absolute favorite part of the entire early sessions. It is just so weirdly, uniquely specific.
It is totally wild. So, friends of Jane and Rob, a couple named Bill and Peg Gallagher, went on a vacation to New York City. They deliberately didn't tell Jane what they were going to do. They didn't leave an itinerary or any clues.
So while they were gone, Seth decided to give Jane impressions of what they were doing in the city.
Right. And the bulletin list of hits is just bizarrely specific. Let's run through them.
Okay, item 1 on the list. The furniture.
Seth says he sees a green modernistic chair in their hotel room. Confirmed. When they got back, they confirmed their hotel room had a light green modern-style chair with wooden legs.
Okay, specific color and specific style. Not bad. Item 2. The eponymous toilet.
Seth says to Jane, something cracked a glass. Perhaps a small, insignificant accident. Note that he is struggling to identify the exact object, but he gets the exact physical quality of the event. He senses the fracture in the material.
And what did the Gallaghers actually find in their room?
They confirmed that the enamel on their hotel toilet was visibly cracked.
I just love this detail because it is so incredibly mundane. Think about it. If you were a fraud faking a psychic reading, you would say something grand. I see you looking at the Empire State Building. You wouldn't say, I see a cracked toilet.
Exactly. Real psychic data is very often about sensory anomalies. A jagged crack in an otherwise smooth white surface stands out like a beacon to the roaming consciousness. It actually validates the authenticity because it is so random and unremarkable. It is the exact kind of thing you notice when you are physically standing in a strange bathroom.
Okay, item 3. The constables.
This one is brilliant for the historical context of 1967. Seth says he sees people dressed as constables who are not constables.
Constables meaning police officers or military, but he says they aren't real ones.
The Gallaghers confirmed they visited a shop in Greenwich Village that sold antique military uniforms. Now remember the year. What was happening in youth faction in 1967?
The Beatles. Scrap Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Literally everyone in the counterculture was wearing vintage military jackets.
Exactly. It was the absolute height of the fashion rage. So Seth saw these young people in uniforms, but his inner truth detector knew they weren't actual soldiers or police. He saw the costume aspect perfectly. He saw the cultural irony of it.
Item 4. The bar.
He describes a long, narrow establishment with a very distinctive long bar. The Gallaghers confirmed they went to a place exactly like that in the East Village.
Item 5. The spies.
Seth mentions a book or movie about spies. Bill Gallagher confirmed he spent a significant amount of time browsing through spy novels in a local bookstore.
That is just a staggering amount of highly specific information. A green modern chair. A cracked toilet. Fake military constables. A long, narrow bar. Spy books.
It is undeniable. But in the spirit of a true deep dive, we have to talk about the misses as well, or the distortions, as Seth calls them.
Right, because he wasn't 100% perfect on every detail.
No, he wasn't. For example, he mentioned seeing a South American combo playing music. The Gallaghers did go see live bands, but none of them were South American.
And there's the issue with the room number, too.
Yes. Seth said they were in room 202. The actual hotel room was 916.
That is not even close.
Well, remote viewing researchers actually talk about this phenomenon a lot. They call it analytical overlay. The raw data comes in as images or feelings, and the conscious mind of the medium, in this case Jane's brain, tries to label it logically. Numbers and letters are notoriously hard to read psychically, but the visual impressions, the crack, the green color, the uniforms, those were rock solid.
So Seth isn't an omniscient god reading a pre-written script. He is more like a radio antenna tuning into a slightly fuzzy station.
Which actually completely validates the broadcasting theory we started with in segment 1. He is picking up their literal broadcasts. Sometimes there is static on the line, sometimes the signal is crystal clear, but the underlying signal is demonstrably there.
This leads us perfectly into segment 5, the synthesis. How do we connect all these distinct dots together? We have the philosophy of you create your own reality on one hand, and we have the objective evidence of I can see your cracked toilet from 200 miles away on the other.
They are two sides of the exact same coin. Think about the implications.
Walk me through it.
If Seth can see a cracked toilet in a Manhattan hotel while sitting in a trance in Elmira, New York, what does that essentially prove about the nature of reality?
It proves that consciousness is not locked inside the physical skull.
Right. It proves non-locality. It proves your mind can go places your body physically isn't. It proves that you are not just a meat suit walking around in a dead universe.
And if my mind is big enough and expansive enough to touch a hotel room in Manhattan without my body being there,
then it is certainly big enough and powerful enough to profoundly affect the physical reality immediately around you. If we are all connected in this massive invisible web where Seth can check in on the Gallaghers and where my bad mood can literally trigger your angry letter, then the entire idea that I am an isolated victim completely collapses.
it just falls apart. We aren't isolated islands floating in an empty ocean. We are active nodes in a vibrant network.
Very powerful, very active broadcasting nodes.
So what of this whole deep dive is massive for the listener?
It changes how you live every single day. It strips away the comforting luxury of complaining about bad luck. But in exchange, it gives you the ultimate gift of personal agency. It means you are sitting right in the driver's seat, even if the road feels really bumpy right now.
It adds this incredible layer of magic to the completely mundane. Suddenly checking your mail isn't just a boring chore anymore. It is a real-time diagnostic test of your psyche. You can ask yourself, what did I manifest today?
Exactly. Or, why did my chronic back pain suddenly stop hurting today? Oh, maybe it is because I actually let myself feel genuine joy this morning. It turns your entire life into a living laboratory.
A laboratory where you are simultaneously both the lead scientist and the ongoing experiment.
And remember the psychic rebirth we talked about? That is the ultimate practical takeaway from this session. You are never, ever trapped by yesterday's broadcast. You can change the dial on the signal right now in this very second.
This has been a lot to process today, but in the absolute best way possible.
It is a total paradigm shift.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to chew on. If we are constantly broadcasting our reality every second of the day, and others like that angry letter writer are constantly picking it up, are we ever truly alone in our own heads?
Or are we all just part of this massive invisible web of emotional telepathy, constantly shaping and reshaping each other's lives without even realizing it?
That is really something to think about. The next time you are sitting in traffic, just fuming at the steering wheel, who exactly is listening to that signal you are putting out?
And more importantly, who's going to react to it?
Exactly. We want to strongly encourage you to treat tomorrow morning or even just the rest of today as that psychic rebirth. Just see what happens when you consciously choose to change your signal.
Experiment with it in your own life. Test the hypothesis. Be the scientist.
And if you want to really dive into the deep end, you have to read the original source material. We have only just scratched the surface of a single session today. We encourage you to study Seth Material books and visit New Awareness Network website and bookstore at sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
It is dense, it is incredibly rich, and it is absolutely worth reading directly for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep broadcasting good vibes out there.
And definitely watch out for cracked toilets.
See you next time.